Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wargame Show. We are here. Oh, whoa. We can only see the Wargame Show logos right on top of Abe's head. I'm sorry,
Abe's
Abe.
face.
There it is. It's gone.
I'm incognito today.
It's all yeah, I know. It's like the mask.
The masked wargamer.
My special Carnival mask is the name of our show.
Woohoo!
No one ever can figure out who I am at cocktail parties. We got Abe here. We got Adam here.
Hello.
Goat Boy may or may not show up. We don't know. He has said that he's goat hopping around the universe, the inner tubes. So we'll see if he shows later. We have been waiting so long. All of you, everyone out there in Warhammer 40,000 land, we've been waiting so long. We've been waiting. What? When did the codexes to show up? This giant glut of products is there. It has been announced that, that is big news. Yeah, 2 months. They have been. Yeah, I want to say it was July. It was July. I want.
I mean, we live in a timeless void right now, so it may feel longer than it actually has been.
That's true. I mean,
it
really
feels
no idea
like
what
it's been years.
Yeah, I have no idea what day or month it is at all.
It's also the tail month of September, so
yes,
tail end of September. Excuse me. So yeah, that's extending out that feeling of like, where are those books at?
Yeah, 100%.
So, and also, I mean, keep in mind too, their pre-orders go up this weekend, which means they don't actually come out for 2 weeks. So
it's okay. That doesn't count. As soon as it goes up for a pre-order, it's real. It's real.
Okay.
That counts. So I mean, this is what we went for. We got we just kind of go over everything. Oh my God, Banana Mandrew in the house. Hey, Banana.
Whoa. It's been a while. What's up, man?
So we got Necron Codex. We got Space Marine Codex. We got. Let me just go over the list because we have the list. We just got it in from.
We got dice.
We got all kinds of stuff. First of all, Silent King. Boom! He's showing up right off the. I mean, a lot of people were wondering, like, are they going to break this up? Is it going to be like, are they going to do like some weeks of just the Space Marines and some week of the Necrons, and they are just opening up they're cranking the wheel and the floodgates? It's all going to pour out. So on everybody's heads, the Silent King is coming. The Canoptic Stalker is coming. I think that's not the one. That's the one with the big cannon, right? It's
Correct.
The big weird walker with the. It's not the one that came in the Indominus box set.
No, that's the Reanimator. Correct.
Okay. Yes.
Those are two separate units.
Coming. I know. Every time I look at them, I think of elephants because they have the root. Well, they're like giraffe elephants, like Necron giraffe elephants. They got 4 legs. They're really long.
War of the Worlds, but sure.
Yeah. It can't be War of the Worlds. They have 4 legs, not 3. They're not tripods. Okay, fine.
I did see someone do a really cool conversion of one to be like the big giraffe thing from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Sure.
I don't know if
the Brontosaurus.
It has like a cool. Kind of I mean, they're robot. They're not. Yeah, the kind of Brontosaurus one. It's pretty cool.
We got the Locust Heavy Destroyer. That's the big kind of beefy.
Chunky.
The destroyer.
Heavy Destroyer.
Skip leg day. Yeah.
Yeah. He did. Yeah. He's like the Rock of destroyers. He's all extra beefy and chunky. And he flies. He floats. And then on the Marine side, we have just kind of like some of the weird odds and ends. We got the 3 little kits that were actually these were unveiled. God, I want to say like 2, maybe 3 seminars ago. Like one of the right after the Indominus box.
I meant to look that up, but yeah, it was around
the Invader ATV, which is so now you can officially have go-kart racing with your Space Marine armies because that thing really looks like a lawnmower. I'm just saying, because it's all big and with little tiny wheels on the side. Every time I see it, I'm just like, it needs a handle. It looks like a lawnmower with Marines riding it. You got the Fire Strike servo turret. Abe was going to have many things to say about the Fire Strike servo turret, and the Primaris Chaplain on a bike, which is what every competitive player on the world wants. They're just like, whatever all this other crap, I need that Chaplain on the bike right now. Then we got the Codexes, all the normal stuff, cards, dice, all the main stuff. So basically, that is all going to be hitting. Man, that is an excellent point, Banana Manager. I like that concept of we need to have like a game that's all like go-kart racing with like all the small orc buggies versus just invader ATVs just all the time.
Yep.
Did we do that before? I thought we did that before.
I think that's just called Gorka Morka.
Yeah, that is pretty much what that is. That is Gorka Morka.
No. We did Jim came up with that one time.
Oh, we had the pod racing rules.
The pod racing, yeah.
We had the pod.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you just need like a special board and make a big track and just do it. And
we did that, yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So all that stuff is coming out. That's this week. Let's kind of talk about those things. What are you guys excited about? What do we think is going on? Adam, you want to open it up?
Sure. Yeah. I'll start us off. First up, I want to talk about Necrons real fast because I feel like Abe's probably going to talk about the Space Marines more than I will. Especially with that Fire Strike. I know he's excited about it. But the Necron releases have two of the kits that I was really curious about, really interested in. The first one being the Silent King, the second one being the Locust Heavy Destroyer. Those are two of the big new releases that, again, update the line, add a new character, update a classic model of the Destroyer to a newer, bigger, beefier version, essentially. It's a Primaris version of a Destroyer, right? It's just a new design aesthetic, too, for the Necrons. Like, I know we got a bunch of new stuff in Indomitus, but I really feel like this is the first... I don't want to say major release, but I mean, it kind of is the first major release for the new Necrons. Plus, we're getting a Codex for them. You know, if I wasn't a Necron player, I still don't consider myself a Necron player, but I have managed to collect some Necron stuff just from Indominus and things like that. And I actually have an old the old Battle Force box that I've been sitting on for a couple of years, and I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm looking at the new Silent King miniature. I'm looking at the Locust Destroyer and thinking, yeah, I could start this hobby project up. I've got some time.
How many more? How many incomplete armies do you have on your workbench right now in front of the Necron?
There's at least 2,000 points of each. They're complete. They're ready. They're playable armies. Thank you very much. There's always more, though. You know how it goes. There's always more to add and more units you want to try and stuff like that. But yeah, the Necrons, I think I'm looking forward to their releases. This is also kind of giving us a window into the release timing of a lot of this stuff. Games Workshop's been showing off pretty consistently all these new Necron kits, new Space Marine kits, going back several months at this point. And we're just now getting them physically, right? So in 2 weeks... Yeah. It'll be the first time. And again, like we were talking about earlier at the start, I think a lot of the stuff was previewed when 9th edition dropped.
Yep.
If I remember correctly. Even before that, I think there was another preview.
I want to
would have been like Adepticon, right? So whenever Adepticon was.
Like I remember that the one I remember there's two I remember specifically. The ATV they showed off, I think that was like right after they dropped the Indominus box, because they showed that one off
because the rules were in there.
Correct, that they showed the Fire Strike turret because people were seeing like pictures of it. It was in the book, and then they showed off the chaplain on a bike because of there was that when the chapter approved book came out. It had that little thing in the back that listed all the things that were like,
right.
What do you mean a chaplain on a bike? This isn't part of the Indominus set. And then they like quickly got it out the next day. So that was early.
Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff can be contributed to the worldwide stuff going on right now, and just screwing up of all the timelines and delays and etc. that happened with that situation. It's understandable. Logistics got screwed up. Timing got thrown off. So yeah. 9th edition's been in a weird, funky spot, I would say, since Indominus, just because of the release schedule of things have been shifted around so much, and it's totally understandable. I'm not faulting GW for that. They're not the only company dealing with that, so it is what it is. Moving on though, like again, the Necron stuff's coming out. I'm super excited about it. I think the Silent King is a really cool kit. Being an Ossiarch Bone Reaper player as well, I definitely see some parallels there. I'm not mad about those things at all. So, It's cool. It's cool. The Void Dragon though is the one that I'm like, oh man. They showed off rules for that today too. That was another thing they showed off. We'll probably talk about that a little later. But man, I don't know. I'm really excited for Necron players. It's also going to be the first Codex. And Abe, I think you mentioned this a couple weeks ago or a week ago. We haven't had a new Codex, a real Codex, since November of last year, right?
Yeah,
technically when the Sisters came out,
an actual new Codex come out. Yeah, exactly. Since November of last year.
Right, when the Sisters box came out and had a Codex inside. Again, we got the full release later on, but that was technically when it was released. At
least 10 months.
We're going by. Yeah,
it's
so
been
10 months with no new Codex. We got the Psychic Awakening stuff, and that was really more of like a capstone refresh for a lot of the armies.
Yep.
But now we're getting Space Marines and we're getting Necrons. But this is I want to kind of go back and check to see how long it's been since we've had a Xenos Codex release at this point, because man, it feels like forever since any Xenos army got any kind of attention, other than like Psychic Awakening stuff. So
I mean,
maybe
because it was Sisters, and then it was before that was all the Space Marine stuff. Right?
I want to say Gene Stealer Cult, maybe. No.
Gene Stealer Cult was like late. Yeah, but that was
Gene Stealer Cult was one of the last. Was one of the later Codex.
December of 2018 though, or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd have to go. I dug it all up and wrote. We have a post that lists all the dates they came out.
Right. So my point being is that it has been a long time since we've seen a non-power armor, non-Imperium, non-chaos army, and at this point I'm really rooting for any Xenos to get anything, and I'm really hoping that the Necron book is good, and I don't want it to be broken, overpowered. I just want it to be able to compete. I feel for a long time, I feel like the Xenos armies have been fighting at the kiddie table of 40K and haven't been able to really engage in some of the higher and competitive play. I know there are players out there who will disagree with me that have been able to take Tau or what have you to tournaments and do well. I'm not disparaging them at all. I'm just saying, to me personally, it seems like a lot of the other Xenos armies have struggled, and the Necrons are kind of paving the way now as the first major Xenos update we've seen in the game, and I want to say like 2 years at this point, because
in a long time.
February 2019.
Right. So they've also gotten 20 new models or 20 new kits. They're getting a new Codex. They're finally getting Xenos are finally getting something. I don't even want to say on par as Space Marines, but like,
oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying, guys. It's been a long time. It's been a drought.
Traditionally,
all the time.
The really early codexes that come out in an edition quickly get overpowered as just codex creep happens, and Necrons did kind of sat in all of 8th edition as just kind of also rans. They came out and their codex was just very much what they were in 7th. They just it was one of those codexes that they just brought it over. They got their dynasty traits, which was neat.
Yep.
So I'm actually hoping that because this is such a giant overhaul and they're getting so many new units, that I would actually, to be honest, I would rather see Necrons slightly overpowered, because they're going to need it to survive and be competitive. Because they're not going to get another one of these books for 3 years. So might as well make it a really good one, and then let everybody play catch up with them. Abe,
I'm actually okay with that too. Again, we know the next 6 codexes, right, are 4 more Marine codexes if you count Death Guard. Dark Angels are in early 2021, and another Mystery Xenos book. So if the Necrons can at least be slightly overpowered, maybe a little bit, competitive, a little bit better than average for, the next 5-6 codexes, I'm okay with that. So I don't know. Abe, what do you think, man? What are your thoughts on the new releases?
Yeah, so let's see the Necron book. I don't know. Something makes me doubt they're going to be overpowered.
Me too.
I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't mind if they were. I agree with you. But I kind of doubt that they are, just because they're an early codex in the edition. They've got a lot of weird new stuff coming out, and that can be kind of hard to like tack onto your existing army. But we just have to see what all the like 40K at this point is a very weird mix of like units actually being good and then all your special rules being good, right? And one of them can kind of make up for the other one, and Space Marines are in this unique position, probably really like one of the more unique positions in the game of both having good rules, both having good extra rules and solid units.
Yes.
A lot of armies end up with like one of those, but not the other one. Like Imperial Guard, for instance, have pretty solid base units, but they just have like really mediocre, like extra rules to throw on top of everything. You know, like we're still going to see the situation, I think, where even if Necrons are good, it's still going to be a situation where a Necron army has one book, and so they have 25, 30 stratagems to pull for, and from the Space Marine they're playing has 60 stratagems to pull for, right?
I would also say, Abe, it's really it's really a trifecta. I knocked my camera over. It's really a trifecta of, like you were saying, the core unit rules, their special rules, and then also the points, right? Because we have an idea of what the Necron points are going to be because we have the chapter approved, but I mean, are we going to get new points in the codexes? Are those going to be updated? Are they going to go back through? I'm sure they have a plan for this already, and they've probably thought about this, but one of the big complaints folks had about the previous Necron Codex was the fact that they felt like it was 20%, give or take, too expensive, right? So are we going to be paying a premium for Necrons because of reanimation protocols again? Or are we not? Are they just going to write that off as it's basically Feel No Pain? It is different now, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's that trifecta of core unit rules, special army-wide special rules, strategies, whatever you're going to call them, and then the point value. So yeah.
And yeah, Space Marines have that advantage of being good. Like Custodes, for instance, have really good units, but horrible on points and kind of mediocre bonus rules, that kind of thing.
Right.
So you've got that thing. I really dislike the Void Dragon.
The model?
No, the rules. I'm very unhappy with that.
Whatever, man. That model looks awesome. I'm playing with Rule of Cool right now.
But I'm very unhappy that they're doubling down on the unit can only take X number of wounds in a phase rule that Gazgul had, because I thought that's like a height of laziness rule that I don't like at all. But whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking Marathi, but yeah, you're right. Gazgul had that too.
Yeah. I mean, in 40K, Gazgul was the first time we saw it. We've seen a couple in Age of Sigmar.
Sure.
I do, of course, really want to see the Void Dragon and Gazgul get into combat with each other and then have nothing happen for like 5 turns because they just can't kill each other.
And then the game ends.
Yeah. So I'd be greatly amused to see that happen.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, we'll have to see. Like, I'm not super impressed so far with the 6-gun guy. Right, like he can shoot 12 infantry. He can kill 12 one-moon infantry models in a turn.
Right,
if he rolls well and they make well saves, and like, cool. There's so many things in the game that can kill 12 infantry models in a turn. That like,
I would be a little bit more impressed with that model if it could, if the guns were 2 damage a pop.
Yeah, exactly. If they're 2 damage a pop, or because it isn't the
Kellermorph.
The Kellermorph, he's just like if he hits and wounds, he gets an extra shot, right? Like the Kellermorph is good at killing, or maybe he just hits. The Kellermorph is good at killing characters because he can snipe them out, and he doesn't have to kill someone to get the extra attack. And he gets like 6 shots, but he does 2 damage each shot. So.
Sure.
Abe, you actually brought up. You made me just think about this just now. You brought up an interesting point too, because of the one wound or 1 damage versus 2 damage. I mean, with Marines being as prevalent as they are, do you feel like 2 wounds is going to be the new normal for like the game? Is that going to be the new bar that everybody's going to have to clear now?
Well, I think we're going to see a return to what we used to talk about MEQ all the time, right? As the Marine equivalent. And that really went away in 8th edition, maybe in 7th edition. I didn't play a ton of 7th edition, so I'm not certain exactly when that, as like the baseline of things you need to beat, right? In 8th edition, it kind of became a knight, was not the MEQ, but that was the like, can your army kill a knight a turn?
That was 7th also.
Yeah, and that was like really the test, especially in 8th edition, that towards the latter half of 5th edition, that became the test is, will your army be competitive? And if the answer is, I can kill a knight a turn, yes, you have a chance of being competitive. If your answer was, no, I can't kill a knight a turn, then your army was never going to be competitive, because you were going to run in, because if you went into a tournament, you had such a high chance of running into at least one knight army, and if you couldn't kill one of them a turn, that was it. I don't think that's the case in 9th edition. I think knights, again, are pretty much garbage. The data has shown them to not even be placing in events. And there's a lot of things. But I think now we are going to see that return to MEQ as the baseline of like what you can defeat. And it's probably going to be, we're going to have to figure out what that number is of like, can your army kill X MEQ?
I think it's going to basically be like, can you effectively deal with a combination of like either a single heavy vehicle or a full squad of like 10 intercessors? Like, can you put a squad of 10 intercessors down in a turn?
Yeah. Can you kill 10 or 20 intercessor kind of things a turn? Is really going to be the question of that. So I think we're not necessarily going to. I don't think we're going to see more armies changing to have 2 wounds than we've seen already. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't suspect like orcs are going to actually get an extra wound or something like that.
No.
But yes, I do think that 2 wounds is going to be the standard that people are starting to have to look at as what is good and what's bad, and if you can kill 2 wounds or not. Which is why I suspect like plasma is going to become increasingly prevalent in this new edition.
Do you think that it's not just going to be, can you kill 2 wounds, or is it going to be like, can your army deal with a squad of intercessors or 2 squads a turn? Or is it going to be more granular and say, can this unit or this particular vehicle kill 2 wound intercessor squad or 5 intercessors a turn? Or do you think that's how folks are going to see kind of stack the metrics of like, is this unit good?
I think that's going to affect the options that you give to a unit, the upgrades that you give to a unit. I don't think it'll affect necessarily overall army construction, because you still have to look at army construction holistically. And there are units, of course. The guard unit is never going to be able to kill a 10-man intercessor squad in a turn, no matter what you do with it, right? That doesn't mean that that's a bad unit at this point. But there are things you're going to have to want to look at for that infantry squad. So I do think that how much damage that unit can do to an intercessor squad or a 2-wound squad of troops, or potentially if we start seeing a lot of heavy intercessors on the field, it could be 3 wounds, right? I mean, there's definitely a chance that's something we need to look out for, that there are Marine builds that could entirely be 3 wounds, right? And that's an interesting thing that we don't know how that's going to play out, because we don't know their points, we don't know what other rules go along with them. If they have other, we know that they don't necessarily have other special rules, but we don't know if there's other things in the Codex that could affect them. So we are going to have to look at that. But I definitely think when you're looking at like weapon options and what you're taking, we're going to be seeing a huge prioritization on 2 wound and 2 damage weapons over 1 damage. In the past, it wasn't as huge a deal, but it's going to be a much bigger deal now, especially because Chaos is going to get 2 wounds. So if you're dealing with a Chaos Marine, even if you're dealing with a more classic Marine army, you're going to have to want to deal with that. So
it's going to be like about, I think we did the math. It's like about a third of the armies in the game are now going to be 2 wound armies. So is if you play, whether you play tournaments, whether you play casually, whether you're just playing with like a group of friends. I mean, when 1/3 of the armies in the game just switch to 2 wounds, that is the new standard. So there's going to be
it's not really a third though. It's also like based on popularity, it's like 80%.
Oh, it's Well, I mean that's because they're really powerful now. But even when Marines sucked, you still would routinely run into into Marine equivalent armies, but just because there's so many. There's just all the codexes, and then you get Death Guard, and then you get Thousand Suns, and there's just a lot of codexes out there, and lots of people have them. So you routinely run into them,
So I think you're going to just have people that are looking to try to get as much 2-wound stuff into their army, 2 damage stuff into their army as possible. And I think that's really going to hurt something like the gunslinger guy, the Hexmark.
The Hexmark,
yeah, because unless he has some way of making his guns all do 2 damage. Which, again, that is theoretically possible. We don't know, right?
Right. Sure.
But without that, I don't know what the point of this guy is, because Necrons have plenty of things that can kill a bunch of 1-wound, low armor save infantry. Like, that's not really a need that you need filled.
I'm more interested in that there seems to be more... it looks like there's a chance that there will be some actual melee and assault options for Necrons, which has traditionally been the army's terribleness. They've just not in any way been able to deal with an army that just charges them and successfully charges them. So, like forever, like not in the last edition, like since they were invented, like Necrons stay still and they're tough and they shoot, and that's what they do. And you kill them, and some of them get back up, and it's just a frustrating army to fight against. But so I'm interested in the fact that there seems to be more units that look like they're specifically built for close combat. So So are there going to be assault Necron builds? That's an interesting concept.
I think that's actually based on a lot of the units we're seeing the Necrons get in this new wave. I feel like GW has recognized that Necrons have for a long time been considered kind of crappy in close combat. And this is a way for them to shore up some of those some of that weakness. I don't know if we're going to see full-on close combat Necrons, but we haven't seen all the rules yet. So
we haven't seen all the rules.
It's an entirely possible thing.
I mean, the Scorpec destroyers are good. Like, they are decent in close combat. They will cut through guys.
Sure, yeah.
So,
well, I think it's something you need in 9th, right? Because you need to be able to push forward and take objectives in 9th, or you're just going to lose the games. Which I think is a problem that Tau have right now.
100%.
And Necrons definitely would have had that problem under the old Codex without the ability to get anyone forward into combat. But now they do have that ability to do that. So, I'm going to have to see. It feels weird. I don't know about Necrons. It feels like this is actually like 2 Space Marine releases rolled together. So they've kind of had like some thematic releases, right? Like the last release we got was Shadowspear, and that was all the Phobos things, right?
Yep.
And there's actually fairly clearly at least two distinct like blocks of things that are getting released this time, right? We have this like heavy defensive line category of things, which is like heavy intercessors, Gravis, the guy in that, the turret, the drop pod thing, the fire
drop turret.
Even maybe the gladiator tanks are kind of like this heavy static group of things, and then we also have this fast assault group of things with the bikes, the ATV, and assault intercessors, right? And that really feels, and it's 20. I mean, it's like 20 models, right? So this really feels that it's like 2 10-man, 10 model like thematic releases. I don't know if this was always planned to come out together, or there was a supply train, thing that made them put them out, that made them all cramp them in here together, or what. But it really feels like 2 kind of distinct things. And if you look at the Indomitus box, right? That box is really based around, like the Shadow Strike box was. It's not everything, but it is much more based around kind of like this heavy push forward assault focused stuff.
Yeah. No, I totally understand what you're saying, Abe. I agree with you. I think it's interesting too. But to your point, the Marines are almost, I think they are getting like 19, 20 new models total. That means they're getting as much stuff as the Necrons did. You couple that with the first stuff of the for Primaris Marines. Then you add in the Phobos stuff of Primaris Marines. I mean, I know that we've talked about classic Marines getting phased out, but the Marines are essentially a fighting force as a whole that does a lot of different things,
I mean,
and
the
you
new
can build
Codex
that
is
army
90.
to do whatever you want.
Yeah, the new
You can
Codex is
specialize, or
98
you can
data
pick and
sheets,
choose. Yeah,
which is crazy.
which is crazy.
That's
That
actually
that
less.
doesn't count, huh?
I think that's less than the last one was.
Well, they
So
did combine a few things. I don't know if it is, but they are. But I mean, it's 98 data sheets with not counting any of the the chapter unique rules, not counting any of the forge rule things. So I mean, it's a crazy amount.
I mean that's the equivalent of like 3 armies when you look at the other.
I mean, it's equivalent
codexes.
of like 9 Harlequin armies, right?
Right.
The Custodes are jealous.
You're not wrong.
Custodes are not happy.
Yeah. I mean, that the modern like smaller armies, that's like that could be 9 different armies right there. Or, you know,
right.
7 or 8 different codexes.
100%.
Abe, I wanted to get your thoughts too on the fire servo turret and the we did see the confirmed rules for chapter tactics and stuff like that. Do you think Dark Angels are going to be rocking a lot of those turrets? Because
I think there's definitely a possibility there. Though, doesn't it already have BS2? I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I just know that it's going to hit real good.
It's going to hit real good, definitely.
So
yeah, I mean, I think the Dark Angel rule. I talked about it 2 months ago that that it looked really good, and they confirmed it today, and it was better than I thought it was actually, because I wasn't certain if it worked in combat before. And they confirmed it does work in combat.
Can you restate the rule, please, for everyone who's watching?
So it's a 2-part rule. It's basically if you didn't move the turn before, not counting consolidation and
pile-in.
So if you didn't move the turn before,
or engagement, or whatever movement it's called,
pile-in consolidation, you get +1 to hit, and then also you just you ignore the attrition part of the morale rule, so you can still lose 1 model if you fail your check, but you don't roll for anything else beyond that. So you never lose.
Yeah, you auto pass it or whatever.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
Which that part is fairly irrelevant because Marines don't actually lose models for morale anyway, and they basically, and even when they basically can never lose more than 1 model because they're getting to because like if you're playing your Marine army the way you probably should be, you're playing 5-man squads, and the most you're ever going to lose is that last guy in the squad, and probably not then anyway. So that's a pretty minor buff, but
yeah.
So they used to remember this is going from basically if you don't move you get to reroll 1s to if you don't move you get +1 to hit and shooting in combat.
Right.
With everything. Wow.
Right. With everything that gets, which I assume everything, right? I don't know.
Whoever has that rule. Yeah.
Whoever
has
gets that chapter tactic.
Yeah.
So like,
yikes.
That's a pretty solid rule right there.
Yes, that is.
It's crazy too that it, now that we've actually seen the rule as written from GW too, the fact that it works again, we all knew it was going to work for shooting, whatever.
Right.
But the fact that it's also going to apply to close combat, so like you charge Dark Angels, and now for the rest of the close combat, they have +1 to hit because they just don't have to move. So it's just like
this to me feels like more of the like everything we've seen, which is like 9th edition is feeling like it's just 8th edition to 11. Like everything is just more.
Sure.
Everything has better stats. Everything is more killy. Everything is tougher. All the rules are like everything is just amped. Like there's not, it's not one of those like rebalance editions where we're going to slightly tune everything. It's just,
it's just we're going to kill everything's going to kill everything else. Yeah.
Right.
And we're just
which means like if that's what they're, because like the Dark Angels aren't particularly. I mean, fluff-wise and from a history of rules-wise, what are the Dark Angels known for, right? The Dark Angels are
secrets.
They have a predilate. They're tough. They're taciturn. They are secretive, and they like plasma weapons. They tend to get little minor buffs to shooting. So the concept that they're just like, now they're these just like, we're static and we don't move. We're now the kind of, maybe arguably the gunline faction, and we're just better at everything as long as we don't move. Right, exactly. Right. Like that seems like that should be an Imperial Fist rule. So now I'm like, what are they gonna get? Like, what are the Space Wolves gonna get? Right? It's like
we know that they got crap. They got the same thing they had before, basically. They get.
It needs to be the opposite. It needs to be like, if you move, move, everything's +1 to hit.
Yeah, they get +1 to hit on the charge, which is infinite, which is not nearly as good as +1 to hit if you don't move. I mean, it's useful for some specific units, obviously, but it's not as good because you don't get to sit around and get +1 to hit.
It's just better. Dark Angels, that rule is just better, not having to move, and you get +1. Again, this could be countered with terrain, with,
This can be countered with terrain. It's not great for, like, unless they get something else, it's not great for, like, Raven Wing that want to be moving probably a fair, that have these fast speeders. It is, you do have to actually get on the objective and stuff like that, but now it means that you can move forward, run forward, get on the objective, and then if the enemy countercharges you on the objective, suddenly you get that +1 to hit to hold the objective.
Right.
And it means that,
based on how missions work in 9th edition, with just the entire concept of you got to get up there, they have a rule that, like, on paper seem to be really powerful, but it goes against what every army has to do to win the game. So like, well, you know what this is going to make really interesting? Deathwing armies again. Or, like, your whole army is like, I teleport in, and now I sit here, push my Terminators off.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, this isn't a rule that you're going to see every Dark Angel army unit take advantage of every turn, right? And that does balance it to a degree, you could argue, whereas something like the Imperial Fist rule with, like, the bolter, with, like, bolter drill, is something that every unit can probably, or most of your units will be able to take advantage of every turn. But it's something that you could definitely build an army to take a lot of advantage of.
Yeah.
And if you're running things that have indirect fire, for instance, that can just sit, you can build a really strong fire base around half of your army that sits in the back and hits on 2s and rerolls 1s, if they're core. And then you have half your army that runs forward and grabs the objective or something like that and acts the way it did it always did. So,
Space Marine's going to be good. News at 11.
Yep. You want to talk about Reanimation Protocols?
I wanted to ask about that. That was my next. That's what I wanted to throw at you guys. Was like, So, okay, I was looking at Reanimation Protocols, reading some of the other folks' thoughts on it and things like that after this morning of getting to look at that rule. Okay, does this just feel like Feel No Pain but worse?
Feels like Feel No Pain but with extra steps.
Yeah, I feel like this is an extra step.
It's not worse.
Okay.
Well,
it is because you get shot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, think about it. You get shot, you get downed, right?
Right.
And this is apparently supposed to happen after every attack, by the way.
Yes.
So again, gonna slow the game down. It may not take a lot, but like,
sure. I like it. I actually like that it happens after every attack. I think that's a good change, because we no longer have to have that weird thing of, like, how many models were killed this turn, or, like, how many. You don't have to, like. There's no funkiness about leaving dead models on the table, or, like, how many did I actually lose out of this unit this turn, kind of thing. At the
right.
You have to remember next turn, or anything weird like that. So that does help with bookkeeping.
Sure, but my point is, with a Feel No Pain type of save, a 5-up Feel No Pain, when you take damage, you roll and you're done. You move on, right? Like, you either take it or not. With this thing, this is fine for single wound models. Like, I don't have an issue with a Necron Warrior or whatever. But if you are, I don't know, a Canoptic Destroyer or a Scorpic Destroyer or something like that, you've got multiple wounds. Okay, if this was a Feel No Pain save and one of them got knocked out, I'd roll 3 checks, if I made any of them, the model would come back, would be there, wouldn't go away. It'd still have 1 wound left or whatever. But now, if the model's destroyed, I roll 3 dice. All 3 of them have to come back for this Scorpic Destroyer to count.
Yes.
So it does give you the chance that you'll make that random thing, and it's like, what is it? 1 in 200 and something percent chance.
Sure.
Whatever. Math. Somebody in math will help you out there, but
so it is worse than Feel No Pain for multi-wound models.
Yes, that was my point.
Yes.
Was like,
it is
and
better
you have to
than
do
Feel
it
No
each attack.
Pain. Yes, but it is better than Feel No Pain for single wound models.
How is it different from Feel No Pain?
So if you're a single wound model and you get hit and you have Feel No Pain and you get hit with a damage 2 or 3 weapon, you have to make all of your saves to survive. If you're a single wound model with Reanimation Protocols and you get hit with a 3 damage weapon, you die, and then you have to make 1 save at the end of the turn, or at the end of that shooting to come back.
Right, there's no spillover. Yeah, that's
there's no spillover. So it's inverted, right? Feel No Pain ends up being somewhat better for the large wound models because you only have to pass 1 to survive. But if you're getting hit at any point with, if you're getting hit at any point with something that does more damage than you have wounds, basically, it ends up being better for you than Feel No Pain. As Banana Manji said, yes, if you're losing a lot of multi-wound models, it kind of ends up averaging out because you do have a chance of getting a model back there. You don't get the ability to be like, oh, I took a 5 damage. I have a 3 wound guy. I took 3 damage attack. I made 1 of those saves, and I'm going to put this other 3 damage on him. So you don't get that weird ability to
shuffle the damage.
Shuffle damage around as much. But I think so. Yeah, but overall, and again, I don't know how much it's going to balance out for the big multi-wound models because I don't know how big those units are going to end up realistically being.
Right.
And you do have to survive the attack. So I don't know if we're going to see a lot of times where you're like, oh man, I lost 5 out of my 6 3-wound models from this attack. I get to roll 15 dice, and if I get 3 successes, I get a model back, kind of thing.
Right.
So I don't know if we'll see a lot of that, but I think definitely for 1-wound models, it does actually help them out. And interestingly, I think this is sort of like Necrons. It does help, I think, push Necrons to kind of a unique situation, assuming that Quantum Shield doesn't change, and that they're kind of the army you want low damage weapons against, right? Because you run into this situation where your high damage weapons end up being bad against Quantum Shield things and kind of end up being wasted against 1-wound models with Reanimation Protocols. You don't actually
want to kill them. Yeah, you want to kill them with death by 1,000 cuts on those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter a whole ton, but because you end up wasting less damage that way. So there's this weird thing where you're like, there's actually this weird thematic thing where if I take a bunch of 1-wound weapons against Necrons, I'll actually kind of come out okay.
Which is cool.
Where shooting a las cannon at a warrior is much more of a waste than it is at shooting it at a plague marine or something like that.
Right.
But you might want to do 1 more damage than they actually have wounds on, just to counteract that Feel No Pain. So I think overall, I don't necessarily know if this is a buff to Reanimation Protocols or a debuff. I don't know if it's better or worse than Reanimation Protocols was. I feel like it's sort of similar. It's definitely not as good if you're trying to do one of those weird tricky things where you're like, I lost 5 wraiths this turn and I spend 3 command points on all these weird stratagems and I get all 5 wraiths back. That's probably not going to happen right now. But
I think it's going to slow the game down quite a bit, or not quite a bit, but overall.
I mean, it definitely could slow the game down. You're correct. You still have weird situations where you could shoot a unit out of line of sight kind of thing, right? Where which you had before still, but where you're like, I killed 3 models in that unit, and they come back to life, but now they come back to life where they're hidden. So my next unit can't shoot you or something like that. There's so weird situations like that. But
hey, Necrons are weird, man. Necrons are weird.
Necrons are weird, and I do appreciate that does get rid of that layer of like kind of bookkeeping, that weird thing that Necrons had, where you had to like remember how many models you were rolling for, or like what turn you were rolling for models on, like that, like some of that kind of weird thing. It does also mean that like once a model's dead, it's dead. Once you, as far as we know right now,
for like, now,
right? Like, so I think in that degree, it's more reliable. Like, there's less randomness in it. You're not suddenly going to have like, I got that unit down to 1 model right at the end of my turn, and then like 2 turns later, that unit's like, I have 20 models now.
We've seen that before.
We've seen that kind of thing happen. So you're not going to have that. But yeah, I think it definitely does. I think it's a nice buff overall for like one wound warrior kind of things. I think it does actually buff one wound warriors, and I think there's also an argument that it goes back to like GW taking unknown factors or randomness out of the game, because if you're fighting against Necrons, you're now always going to know how many models you need to kill. Right? You're never going to get to that situation of like, well, shoot, there's 2 models left in that unit. Do I need to fire a squad? Do I want to fire at that squad and kill them to prevent the rest of the models coming back? Or are they probably going to run away or just like roll really bad on their reanimation? Right? So like as an opponent, you now have much more precise information every turn, after every shot, basically, of
every phase. Right.
Which is great.
It's every attack.
It's every attack. Yeah. So
we're getting a little close to the end here. Do you guys have any kind of final thoughts or words before we start to close out?
I'm looking for the new Necron stuff. Want to see more of it. Want to get my hands on that rules real quick. Same with Space Marines.
There's a 30-man Space Marine event in Sweden this weekend. Top 4 were all Space Marines. This is my shocked face, of course. So Space Marines. I think Space, like Adam said, Space Marines are probably going to be good. News at 11, right? They're the best army. They're probably still the best army now, and unless this book actively makes them worse somehow, which it may not make them much better, but I doubt it's going to make them like actively worse.
If it makes them worse, remember there's 3 more books on the way and 1 more in 2021 to make it better. So we just wait till the 2021 Codex comes out. But also, as long as they still have their supplement super abilities, which is again what really pushes them over the top, I don't know that this is going to make them worse. They are the first army that's going to get hurt by core.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the 40K meta. Evolving, or AKA which of the chapters is currently on top this month.
Right, yeah. So
first it was Iron Hand, and then they got knocked off, and then it was White Scars, and they're kind of, in contest, and we'll see who it's going to be a month from now.
Right, that's the problem that Space Marines have to a degree, is that the most recent books made them so robust, and they have such a deep stable of units to pull from, that it has become. And I think their units are only continuing to get better. So it ends up becoming not our Space Marines the best, but what build of Space Marines is the best. And that may change with this book, but I don't know that Space Marines being on top is going to change, as long as they continue to just have twice as many Army Special Rules and twice as many stratagems as everyone they fight.
And 3 times as many units.
Yeah.
100%. So by this time next week, on our show next week, I can say we will have the books, so we will be able to talk about all kinds of stuff. So it'll be cool.
Right, and we can put up the 14-month counter till the Space Marine 2.0 book comes out.
That is correct. We can restart.
You mean 10th edition?
18-month. Yeah, the 18-month. It's 18-month. An edition is 3 years long. No. They get 2 codexes per edition. It
was August to October. It's only 14 months. It's the last book.
Okay, fine. And
it was probably pushed back 2 months because of COVID.
Okay, I will let Mars kind of take us
months.
out.
Yeah.
Mars is going to be talking about all the stuff that's coming up this week for all of our streaming and shows, and then we're going to wrap up the show with my spot question for the panel.
So tomorrow we have the RPG show at 3 p.m. with that's 3 p.m. Central with JR and Megan talking about what's going on with Frost Maiden, I believe this week. Wednesday evening on twitch.tv/BellofLostSouls, we've got Goat Boy Painting. I'm not quite sure what he's working on this weekend, but it's probably chaos. And then on Friday, Adam's in the studio talking about everything that's coming out for the weekend, thanks to Dragon Slayer Awesome. And that's at around 3 p.m. Central as well. And
then next Monday, we will be back here, same bat time, same bat station, with all kinds of stuff to talk about. So that's going to be super cool.
All kind of stuff.
All right. Here's my spot question for the panel. Will the Silent King be able to take a Demon Primarch?
In close combat, or just in general?
Yeah. Do you think they're going to make him that powerful? He costs $150. Put that out there.
Oh, we saw his points, or not his points. We saw his stats already. I think he's going to be able to hang in most phases. I think he's going to have trouble in the psychic phase.
Yeah, probably not as good as psychic. Here, I'm going to say, man, that's a hard one. I mean, I think he'll be equivalent on an army-wide scale, but I don't know that he's going to be as good individually in combat.
Right.
My spot question for you guys is he going to be the first Supreme Commander we see?
Oh.
Yes. 100%. I say yes.
Which one's Supreme Commander? That's the new version of it's not a Warlord.
It's not a Lord of War. It's the new detachment that you can take a Supreme Commander thing. It's the new unit classification we have seen zero of so far.
How could he not
if you take him,
he is the king of their entire race. How could he not be?
I'm going to say because why not?
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, everybody. We will have the answer.
He be the Supreme Commander in the
he's not in the Space Marine book. He's in the Ultramarine book, right?
That's true. Yeah, he's not, I do not believe he's actually in the Space Marine Codex. I mean, he might be, but
I'm so confused by the Space Marine book. If it's going to be a multi-book thing or like whatever, multi-chapter book.
Next Monday, everybody, we will have these answers for you. We will know. All right, everyone.
Know.
That is our show. Say bye. Say bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.